Good afternoon. My name's Martin Darling. I'm the Vice President of EMEA for TigerGraph, and I'd just like to spend a few minutes explaining why we're seeing a very significant adoption of TigerGraph in financial services, and hopefully that will pique your interest enough that you can find some time to spend with some of the TigerGraph representatives who'll be attending this show later today. So let's move into the presentation that we have. As I said, we're seeing a very significant increase in adoption of TigerGraph in financial services, but we also see significant increase in adoption of graph technologies across all industries that are data-driven, where people want to provide innovative and valuable insights to from the data. So Gartner says that as of today, about 10 to 15% of enterprise organizations are using graph analytics. And this is one of the fastest growing trends in our industry. And the prediction is by 2025, over 80% of enterprise customers will be using graph analytics to provide new insights into the business. So the point here is the question is not to graph or not to graph. That's not the question. You will graph, according to Gartner. And I just hope that if this piques your interest, you can find some time to spend with the TigerGraph people attending this show, and we can explore a little bit more about what graph could mean for your organization. When I started, I said that graph adoption is highest in financial services, and that's a sort of revenue fact that the largest consumer of graph technology is the financial services industry. I just wanted to talk about why that's happening and why is financial services consuming graph at such a fast rate. I think there's a couple of things, but the first one we want to make clear is that one of the things that makes graph attractive to our customers is the graph is complementary to the investments and the tools that you already have. It's designed to work with your existing tools. It will cover how that works over the next few slides. So it's a coexistence proposition. It's not a rip and replace. It takes your existing systems, your existing insights, and it makes them better by underpinning them with graph. I think the other thing is that financial crime is a classically graph-shaped problem, whether it be anti-money laundering or fraud detection. We are working with our customers to hunt across network data for patterns of bad behavior from people, from devices, from transactions, from locations, from cards, from accounts, and the people involved in the bad behavior are trying to hide that bad behavior, so it's not easy to find. But it is a classic graph-shaped problem. Graph is designed from the ground up to provide analytics across networks of data. So it's a classic graph-shaped problem. Because it's such a good fit, we are seeing ROIs of typically over 100% within a 12-month window. So it's a good investment. And we're also seeing that the project deployment time is relatively short. A typical production deployment is only 2 to 3 months. And this seems to be very attractive as we come out of COVID. Our customers are telling us that what they're looking for is effectively a quick win, something to motivate the team, show the business that they can deliver real value in a short space of time with a reasonable amount of investment. That seems to be what the market is looking for as we come out of this time. And what we are seeing is the customers who've been using graph for longer are finding additional use cases that add new value to their business, more aligned to customer satisfaction and increasing in revenue. So we're seeing a lot of deployments now around customer 360, customer segmentation, ensuring that the right part of the bank is servicing the right customers, and product recommendation to optimize cross-sell and upsell. So a little bit about TigerGraph. We've been around since 2012. We have only really been commercially active for 3 years. So it really is a statement of intent that 7 of the top 10 global banks are now using TigerGraph. That's a very aggressive adoption rate. And we're being used across business critical applications, from credit card fraud to trade surveillance to credit scoring to wealth management. You can find out more about our reference customers on our website, or by having a chat with the representatives who will be attending the show later. But we now have a lot of experience that we can share in terms of the best way to set up these graph use cases to improve operational and business efficiency. So why are these customers coming to TigerGraph? Well, it's worth pointing out that the process starts with the customer understanding that they need to improve the systems and the insights, that what they have today is not really good enough. But they will then try to do this on the tooling that they already have. So this is what we have a slide here to show that relational databases are great at what they do, but the one thing that they don't do well is relationships. So maybe the name isn't great. But one of the key differences with Graph is we are able to assign values or attributes to the relationships between data entities, which makes the insights that you can gain from network data, because the relationship itself has a value, makes it so much more valuable. And this is something that you can't do on a relational or NoSQL tool. If your application or workload that you're looking at requires a lot of joins, that's a real signal that this use case or application would be better off being designed on a graph database infrastructure, as we have eliminated from a design point of view the whole issue of joins. If your application or use case, if you think it's going to need to add new relationships or data types over time, again, it's a clear signal that this would be better off being built on a graph platform. And it's not that it's impossible to build these networks with relational databases, but what our customers tell us is when they have got there, that the performance degrades horribly as the number of relationships and the database size increase, to the point that it's overly complex, unmanageable, and very expensive. And I think that's the point, is that Graph is the right tool for the right job. If your use case requires these kinds of attributes, it will be significantly quicker and more cost effective and more performant to build it on TigerGraph. And the fact is that these are significant problems that need to be solved. Our customers have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on tools to better detect fraud detection and anti-money laundering, as an example. But the reality is, and these are US figures, we're still losing over $30 billion a year to fraud. We have high net worth customers receiving false positives. 22% of them have experienced false positives, which means that a legitimate transaction has been declined. And 40% of those denied users are attempting to spend more than $250. So it has the way that the systems are set up today is not good enough. We're still losing a significant amount of money, and we are giving our most valuable customers a very poor experience. So if we can solve this, it will pay for itself by saving money, and we will also give our most valuable customers a significantly better experience. And that is such a strong win-win that that's what's driving the adoption of TigerGraph in the financial services space. We need better AI to drive better fraud detection, and Graph underpins that better AI. And for any of this to happen, we have to start by accepting that to get the better results, to be able to detect more fraud and to be able to detect more false positives, we need to be able to analyze the data more deeply, more widely, and we need to do it with an operational platform at scale. And by deep, we mean we need to look for relationships that are hidden far deeper in the data than our current tools can uncover. Going 2 to 3 traversals or 2 to 3 hops is not enough to deliver a significant improvement in the results that we need. And by wide, we're talking about being able to connect hundreds of data sets and data pipelines together very quickly, so that we can again look for these hidden patterns in the data. And as an example, one of our key customers, United Healthcare Group, have connected together over 200 different data sets and data pipelines very quickly and very simply with TigerGraph. That's something that you simply could not do with a relational tool. And it needs to be operational. Early graph platforms were not really designed for business critical operations. And that's something that TigerGraph solved from its inception. Our founders come from Teradata and Twitter, and it was our design premise to build a scale out, operational, ACID compliant operational database. So, and the last thing is, it has to operate at scale. Again, the first versions of Graph that were out there were good, but they handled relatively small amounts of data in the gigabytes. What we're seeing with TigerGraph customers, we're talking about customers now who have tens to hundreds of terabytes in a single graph. So we're finally able to deliver on the promise of Graph with deep, wide operational analytics at scale. Just to give you a couple of examples. One of our customers is a tier 1 US bank. As I said before, they've got 20 terabytes of credit card application data. That's not something that you would have seen in an early graph implementation. But I think what's interesting here is that the time to deliver the system is shorter than people think. So the POC was 6 weeks of elapsed time, and we all know what banks are like. About 4 weeks of that is internal process, getting access to data and systems. I think the actual POC work only took a couple of weeks. And then it's only about 3 months to deploy the working production use case. And it has an ROI of $16.5 million within the first 12 months. So clear business value in a nice short time frame, and the proof of value is only 6 weeks. So what they managed to get was a 30% uplift in fraud detection, a $15 million saving, and a $1.5 million cost saving from reducing false positives. So that's a very significant bottom line impact. I want to talk about a customer of ours here in the UK, New Day. They've recently started using TigerGraph to improve their fraud detection. You can see some videos of New Day talking at Graph and AI Summit. But the point I wanted to get across by talking about New Day is to really reinforce this fact that we are complementary to your existing tooling and your existing investments. So New Day this is just a very small section. They have a lot more tooling than this in their setup. But what they told us was that they have all these tools, and all these tools work really well. They all deliver significant value, but they all operate in isolation. And this makes learning from an event difficult to provide learning to the organization. And it's also very difficult for the fraud investigators, as they need to move from system to system to gain insights from the data. So the challenge was, you have the fraud investigation cases, and everything is operated in silos in terms of how the investigations were carried out. So there is no intelligence gained to drive fraud future savings. We're not really learning from it. And this causes a problem that we hear repeatedly of, we can't just keep adding headcount for fraud investigation. So what they've done is taken all that existing tooling, it all stays in place, and they use TigerGraph to consolidate the data and provide a platform where complex questions can be asked of all of the data at one time, providing actionable intelligence and protecting accounts that are at risk. So that's my summary of why hopefully you can find some time to talk to TigerGraph at today's event. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you later today. Thank you.